Good afternoon. New Brunswick has been leading the way in removing barriers for Canadians to access our world-class craft alcohol, wine, and spirits, and making sure that New Brunswick businesses can access the rest of the country to sell their products. Nous ouvrons pour assurer que l'élimination des obstacles pour que les Canadiens peuvent avoir accès à des produits d'alcool extraordinaires du Nouveau-Brunswick et que les Néo-Brunswickois ont aussi accès à les produits excellents autour du Canada. Puis on voit que ça fonctionne. Les Néo-Brunswickois ont acheté local d'une façon qui a augmenté de 25%, puis ont acheté national, acheté les produits du Canada, en augmentation de 10% durant les derniers mois. On était la première province à faire ça. Ça a commencé pour nous autres en août de 2025 et maintenant on est vraiment heureux qu'on a les autres provinces qui nous avaient rejoints dans ces efforts de créer la marché canadienne pour tous nos produits alcool. So New Brunswickers have shown that they want to buy local. We led to this effort starting in August of 2025 when New Brunswick was the first province to allow New Brunswickers to have access to the incredible alcohol products, beers and wines and spirits that we make across Canada. We saw local purchases increase by 10%. We saw New Brunswick purchases increase by 25%. We're thrilled today that other provinces have joined us. So now New Brunswick's world-class craft beer products, craft spirits and wines can reach markets like Ontario and Quebec and BC, and New Brunswickers can see the benefits of other Canadians enjoying our products, and Canadians can get the benefits of these products, strengthening internal trade, being our own best customer at a time when it really matters. Be happy to take your questions on the subject. There's a number of other provinces, virtually all the other provinces with the exception of the territories. There are a couple provinces that still need to get their legislation over the line, I believe Quebec and the Yukon, but otherwise Ontario, BC, Nova Scotia, PEI, Newfoundland, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, so that opens up an excellent market for New Brunswickers who have long been known as a destination for craft beer as well as spirits and wines to now get their products to Canadian consumers that want to buy Canadian now more than ever. Well, it took effect in New Brunswick in August of 2025. Each province has their own slightly different timings for how they're rolling out those purchases. So New Brunswickers have had the benefit of Niagara wines and BC wines now for almost a year, and we're very excited to make sure that Canadians can get the benefits of the incredible products that our industry makes. Chaque province a une situation un petit peu différente et unique. Nous autres, on était les premiers. En août de l'année dernière, les Néo-Brunswickois pouvaient avoir accès à des produits canadiens de nos voisins et des autres provinces. Maintenant, chaque province a un processus d'implémentation qui est différent. Alors, c'est différent avec chaque province, mais ça s'en vient parce que tout le monde a signé. Alors, on a hâte de leur vendre les bières excellentes du Nouveau-Brunswick. Le Québec a son travail à faire avec leur projet de loi qui doit passer par l'Assemblée législative. Alors, ils ont signé, ils ont l'entente de participer, mais il y a une loi qui doit être changée. Mais ça, c'est une bonne question. Nous autres, étions les premiers, puis on a donné ce bénéfice à les Néo-Brunswickois et Néo-Brunswickoises, mais clairement, on voulait que nos entreprises, nos petites entreprises excellentes, pouvaient avoir accès à des marchés comme le Québec, l'Ontario, la Colombie-Britannique, la Nouvelle-Écosse, qui sont des proches, qui, on sait, ils voulaient nos produits. Il y avait un accord qui était décidé quelques mois passés. Aujourd'hui, on est là. Dans moins qu'un an, on a vu un avancement. Alors, aujourd'hui, c'est une journée de célébration qu'on est là.
Pensez-vous que le fait que ça ait pris un an, ça peut être représentatif de d'autres discussions que vous allez avoir cette semaine, que ça va prendre un an, 2 ans, avant qu'on arrive quelque part sur des questions semblables de commerce intérieur, de tarifs?
Mais ça, la bonne chose, c'est que le travail a déjà commencé un an passé et plus. Vous avez vu que la province, comme le Nouveau-Brunswick, a déjà passé des lois dans nos assemblées législatives pour l'accueil des travailleurs avec leur reconnaissance de leur diplôme de n'importe quelle province. On a tout fait le travail pour faire des changements dans nos projets de loi et c'est déjà passé, mais il y a un processus quand on a des changements à faire des lois, que c'est des processus qui a un horaire nécessaire pour la démocratie. Alors, je pense qu'on bouge vite. Il y a des choses où le travail s'est déjà fait et il y a de nouveaux projets qu'on doit commencer, les conversations et le travail législatif aussi. Alors, ça dépend de chaque situation. Comment c'est complexe dans une situation unique.
Je pense que là où je veux en venir, est-ce que vous avez bon espoir que là où vous allez avancer du côté du Nouveau-Brunswick, les autres vont vous suivre plus rapidement?
C'est ça? Oui. Oui, j'ai hâte de voir quand on prend une position de leadership. Clairement, dans ce cas-ci, tout le monde nous avait suivi. Alors, j'espère que ça continue.
Can you clarify, does this mean that a Canadian in any liquor store in the province can go in and buy alcohol from other provinces? Is that
So this is a direct-to-consumer program, which means that a Canadian anywhere can go and find a producer and a product that they're really interested in. We have a ton of them in New Brunswick, and they can go and make an order and have that product sent directly to them and delivered to them. And so that really helps actually some of our smallest enterprises for whom getting listed somewhere like in the SAQ in Ontario, in Quebec, or with the Ontario Liquor Commission, that's really challenging. But if you can build a customer base by going direct to that customer and gaining those fans and starting to expand your business, that then gives you the tools to get into places like Ontario. Yeah.
How was your meeting with the Prime Minister, and are you confident that he can strike a deal with the U.S. within the next 30 days?
We had a good meeting with the Prime Minister, as he has proven to be the case consistently with Prime Minister Carney, particularly in matters of U.S. trade negotiations. The communication is rapid. We get together very quickly. We speak very frankly about the situation, and what we've seen is what I think Canadians have come to know, a Team Canada approach against these unjustified tariffs that are a violation of CUSMA. All of the provinces working together to ensure that we get the best deal possible for Canada. It's clear that we've gotten under President Trump's skin, and as you heard me just suggest, New Brunswickers are buying more Canadian products and Canadian alcohol and New Brunswick alcohol than ever before because they are fiercely loyal and patriotic, and when our country is threatened, we respond. And so we're looking forward to seeing how the negotiations continue, because we've learned a few things about our negotiating partner through this.
Well, how hopeful, though, are you that we could actually strike a deal within the next 30 days? Because some premiers seem pretty hopeful that that could be the case.
It's with this president, who is extremely unpredictable, it's not the kind of thing that I put a lot of money on. We have seen this time and time again. Threats of tariffs, then the situation changes. We are looking to protect our CUSMA exemption. We are all on the same page about doing what is necessary for Canada to get the best deal. New Brunswick has a lot of leverage in this circumstance, and we're at these meetings in order to enhance how we work together, right? New Brunswick is the Maritime's energy hub. We deliver energy to our neighbors, both in the US as well as Nova Scotia, PEI, Quebec, and we're building the kind of infrastructure, new nuclear, strengthening our hydro generation in order to support Canada's energy demands, and New Brunswick has the ability to do that. These conversations about how we all work together to strengthen our own economy, how we buy from each other, and to strengthen our relationships with new partners helps give us a better position when we're negotiating against the U.S.
Did the Prime Minister give any indication whether they got any kind of heads up from Washington that these tariffs were coming on Monday? Or were they blindsided?
That's a good question for the Prime Minister.
You didn't find out that information?
No, we had a great conversation with the Prime Minister about the conversations that they've had with the U.S. He was obviously just with the President for the soccer, for the FIFA, and so there's been lots of discussions that we're privy to between the Prime Minister and the President, and I'll let him speak to those to you.
Comment on construit des espoirs d'un accord prochain pour remplacer l'accord dans la maison?
Ben, on voit qu'on a un partenaire critique pour le Nouveau-Brunswick, mais on a aussi une équipe du Canada qui est toute unie en défense de notre pays, de notre économie, face à ces tarifs qui ils sont pas justifiés. C'est une violation de l'accord, mais on voit des choses qui est clairement quelque chose c'est un ennui pour le président et pour son économie. Alors moi, je pense que ça nous donne un outil pour utiliser, pour avancer notre objectif d'avoir le meilleur accord possible pour le Nouveau-Brunswick, pour le Canada, et d'une façon où nous sommes tous unis. Alors, on continue le travail, puis on apprend à chaque jour c'est où nos atouts, c'est quoi nos avantages, et on va les utiliser.
What's your sense of the mood in the room as far as potential retaliation, not just keeping liquor bans in place, but maybe stepping up with some other actions? Can you share with us that conversation and where you think it's going?
Well, I think the mood reflects certainly what I'm hearing from New Brunswickers and what we're seeing from New Brunswickers. They're really happy with the Canadian products that we have on our shelves. They're buying more New Brunswick and buying more Canadian than ever. We see that kind of patriotism come out in how we cheer for our soccer team and how we support our country when we experience these kinds of threats. And so we have that sense of Team Canada that everyone is prepared to do what we each need to do to support the best possible outcome for our country, while we buy more and more from each other and we build that kind of strength at home. And while we see more interest and more opportunity from our other trading partners, that's grown considerably in the last year. And we've been out on the road in other places like India and Belgium and France, seeing those tangible benefits of companies that want to invest in our country and strengthen our position. So I think the mood is good. I think folks are prepared to lean into the things that are an irritant to the president and that he's clearly shown us are an irritant, and to use that to our advantage.
But specifically, I mean, point taken, everything you've said, but where do you go next, right? Not just holding the line on the booze bans, but what's the next bit of retaliation if you have to pull out a bigger weapon?
Well, I don't want to reveal our hand while we're still in negotiation with the U.S. We've certainly seen from this president that a lot can happen in 29 days, and his ability to stick to his own threats is not reliable. So we're going to see how this evolves while our incredible team, folks like Minister LeBlanc, Janice Charette, Ambassador Wiseman, are at the table with the U.S. team every day going forward and assessing their reactions, assessing the tools that we have to apply leverage when it seems like we have a president that is now maybe more in a position to make a deal, and that opens up an opportunity for Canada.
Should Canadian energy be leveraged?
It's something that we talk about, absolutely. I mean, I was just sharing how New Brunswick is an energy hub for the Maritimes. We're the place where there's opportunity for new nuclear. There's an opportunity for us to strengthen our ties. But we do sell a lot of energy products to New England. We put gas in their cars, we put jet fuel in their fighter jets, and we heat and cool their homes. And so we know that we have those kinds of tools at our disposal should we need them.
So you're considering maybe holding back?
Right now, we're watching our trading partner, and we're seeing how they respond to our position at the moment, and learning a lot in the process.
That sounds like a threat. Is it?
A threat to whom?
The U.S. pulling back your energy to some states?
New Brunswick has an incredible opportunity to offer energy to our neighbors. Canada has an incredible amount of resources that we share with the world. And I think, as you've seen, countries around the world are extremely interested in our natural resources, our mineral products, and our energy products. And they're looking for more of those. So we have a lot of options on where we take our valuable natural resources and who we share them with. But I have to say, the U.S. is also a long-time friend, neighbor, and trading partner. And they're going through a blip right now with leadership that has created the kind of instability that is costing Americans. They're seeing the cost of living go up. They're seeing impacts on their own businesses that are negative. And so we want to make sure that we protect our long-term interests with our partner in the U.S. But bottom line, we want to make sure that Canadians are protected and we're getting the best possible deal for our country.
Okay, thanks, everybody.
Good afternoon. Oh, I would call it an excellent meeting. And the Prime Minister gave us an update on what was happening in terms of the tariffs, and certainly all of us as premiers, I think, are part of that Made in Canada and a Team Canada approach, and we'll continue to do that.
And so speaking to the announcement that 9 provinces have now signed on to easing up direct-to-consumer sales of alcohol, can you talk a bit about why you agreed to sign on to that from your province's perspective and what that will mean for Newfoundlanders?
Well, I think that that gives us another opportunity for Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, and it's all about that whole Team Canada. You know, one of the things that have come out of all of this tariff discussions and the imposition of tariffs by the United States is an opportunity for Canada as a country to look both inward and outward. We've started to look inward around, you know, what we can do within our provinces, and we've also started to look outward about what Canada has to offer the world. And I think that you're seeing that the Prime Minister has taken a real focus on diversification of our economy and making sure that we have trade with a lot more countries than we currently have had in the past. And I think that's a great step. And coming out of that, I think, you know, when I think of whether it's oil and gas industries, whether it's critical minerals, whether it's our lumber industries, our forestry industries, we have what the world needs. So let's not simply, you know, we've always had a great relationship with the United States. I think we need to have that relationship as a trading partner, but I think what you're seeing now is Canada recognizing that it has a lot of value to provide to the world.
Sir, how was your meeting with Premier Fréchette, and are you getting closer to the on fall?
We had a great meeting, discussed a lot of different topics, talked about healthcare, cost of living, and did talk about hydroelectricity development. Again, another opportunity for the country, not just for our two provinces, but for the country in general. When you think about the electrification of Canada and what we can do together, I think there's a real opportunity there.
There's, pardon me, there's debate among premiers regarding leveraging Canadian energy when it comes to trade negotiations with the U.S. Danielle Smith said not going to happen when it comes to Alberta oil. New Brunswick Premier Susan Holt has left the door open to leveraging the energy in her province to negotiations, possibly cutting off states from certain access to energy. What about your province, and where do you stand in this debate? Are you willing to leverage your province's energy amid negotiations with the U.S.?
Well, we've turned around. We don't export our energy into the U.S. directly right now, which is something we're talking about in negotiations. But at the present time, when I think about our oil and gas industry, for example, the oil and gas off the coast of Newfoundland is interesting because we only export 30% of that goes into the U.S. market. The rest of it, actually 67%, goes to other countries. So we've always had that diversification. You know, our biggest export into the U.S. market is actually in our seafood industry.
Are you willing to, I guess, cut off the U.S. from any exports in Newfoundland?
Well, I don't think it's about cutting anything off. I think it's about taking the approach of the Prime Minister is taking the correct approach. He's talking. He's willing to discuss. We want to talk about protecting CUSMA and working from that. And I think that, you know, we will see how this plays out. But I think the Prime Minister is taking the right approach.
Hi. How was the conversation with Premier Fréchette about Churchill Falls? I gather it was not an important part of your meeting.
Oh no, it was an important part. It was an important part for all of Canada, as I just said. And you know, our negotiating teams are at the table. They're negotiating, and you know, things are moving forward.
Do you think it's possible to get a deal before the Quebec election?
Well, I think it's you know, the negotiations are always part of that negotiations, and I'm not going to negotiate in public. But I do believe that there's a willingness on both parties to come and try to reach an agreement. And, you know, hopefully that can happen. But right now, both teams are still negotiating and we're making progress.
But do you think it's important to get a deal done before a new government is in place?
I think what's important is that we get a deal that benefits Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, but will also see benefits for Quebec. But right now, my focus is on the province of Newfoundland and Labrador and the benefits that we can get from the use of our hydroelectricity opportunities.
I know how important energy exports are to your bottom line. How comfortable are you with the suggestion that they would be great leverage to use in the talks with Washington? And do you trust the federal government and the other premiers to have your back if you're prepared to take that for the team.
Well, I think that at the end of the day, right now, as I just said, our biggest export into the U.S. is our oil and gas, our oil industry, and we're only exporting 33% into the U.S. markets right now. So those companies decide on where they sell their products to, and right now it's 67% are going to other countries.
But are you willing to entertain a thought that maybe as a government you might intervene and offer that up as something that
Well, I
could-
think that's a little early on the conversation-wise. I think right now we're focused on what we can do as a country, identifying those other jurisdictions that can use our products. So it's not about trying to penalize one or the other. It's about making sure that at the end of the day, how do we diversify our economy? I think that's part of what the Prime Minister's been talking about. Now, right now, though, there's negotiations taking place. CUSMA negotiations continue to take place, and I will work with the premiers and the Prime Minister.
But choosing to send them somewhere else is another way of restricting sending them to the U.S.
No, not
right?
at all.
There's only
That's-
so much in the ground.
The markets,
Ground to
the
the wall.
markets are looking for our products, whether it's liquid natural gas or whether it's our offshore oil industry. I mean, we have what the world wants. Critical minerals is another example of that. So we're going to continue to diversify our economy and diversify. You know, the U.S. is a great trading partner for Canada. It always has been. Unfortunately, now we find ourselves in a tariff situation. But at the end of the day, I think it also gives us that opportunity, as I just said, to talk about and look at how many new deals have been made, how much new foreign investment has come into the country. So I think the Prime Minister is on the right track.
Final thing, this direct-to-consumer alcohol sales thing, was that difficult for Newfoundland and Labrador to sign on? I understand there could be job impacts in certain places
No,
as a result of your decision to join this push.
No, our jobs will not be impacted by that. That won't have an impact on that particular agreement that we signed today.
Why haven't you made a stance, though, whether, you know, you would leverage energy in your province? We've seen Smith take a hard line. We've seen Holt take a position as well as leaving the door open. How come you're not? You're kind of straddling the fence here.
Well, I'm not straddling the fence at all. What I'm telling you is the reality of what we produce right now in our oil and gas industry, that the products are being 67% are being sold to other countries around the world, and that going into the U.S. is just one market that's there, and the companies themselves are deciding that. So, you know, when it comes to other critical minerals and what we can do and how we can help the country, absolutely we're prepared to work with the country and do what's in the best interest of the country overall.
And you would leverage that?
Well, again, you're asking a hypothetical question that.
But other premiers have taken.
Well, as I said, we have turned around and we have our oil and gas industry. We have our seafood industry that we sell into the U.S. market, which is our biggest export, by the way. So that's a challenge. Absolutely, it's a challenge. But we will wait and see, and we'll work with the Prime Minister and the premiers to do that before we make any decisions.
Has the Prime Minister given a strategy, or was just kind of like this it was a brief update?
Well, I think the Prime Minister gave a brief update, and we'll turn around and meet with him again in person on Thursday and have further conversations.
Just on healthcare.
Yes.
Then, about those conversations. I don't think I've heard from you in terms of what a deal looks like to you on that, what you need, and just the fact that once again it's back on the agenda at this meeting after a bit of a pause.
Yeah, I think it's a very important issue to be back on the agenda. When you look at the impacts of our budget in particular, you know, we're up at 44% of our budget is now spent on healthcare. We have the percentage-wise per capita, we have the oldest population in Canada, and that of course comes with its own set of issues. We also know that the increases in funding that we've gotten with healthcare transfers have not kept up with the expenses in healthcare. So I think it's going to be critically important. I mean, healthcare is something that when you look at what it consists of, 80% of cost of healthcare are related to people who work in the system. Between benefits and salaries, 80% of your costs in the healthcare system are people helping people. We can have all the technologies and all the buildings and everything else, but we need the resources. We need to retain people. We need to recruit people. And we find ourselves competing not only across the country for people, but also in the world. So I think it's very important that at once upon a time, the federal funds from health transfers used to be significantly more. They've dropped over the years. So we need to change the model. We need to talk about that and have serious conversations about it. Well, I think what the Prime Minister is interested in doing is growing our economy and our country. There's tremendous opportunity, I believe, in what Canada has to offer, as I said before. And we didn't get into any great detailed discussion today, but I suspect that will be part of the discussion on Thursday.
Okay, we're good. Thank you.
Did you give any indication to the Prime Minister whether they got any kind of heads up on these tariffs yesterday?
I think the Prime Minister was surprised.
Thanks, everyone.
It's the fact that, you know, he was there the day before and then all of a sudden the U.S. President turns around and announces a 50% tariff. I don't know for a fact. You'll have to ask the Prime Minister that question. No.
Okay, everyone. Thank you very much for your time.
Merci beaucoup. Alors, on a eu une première bonne journée de travail aujourd'hui. Vous savez, dans le contexte où le président Trump a annoncé, a choisi d'imposer des nouveaux tarifs dans 30 jours. J'ai particulièrement apprécié la rencontre avec le premier ministre Carney. C'est une rencontre productive où les échanges étaient francs. Et on en est venu à des objectifs, en fait, communs, à savoir qu'il faut intensifier les négociations. Intensifier les négociations avec notre partenaire américain, puis éviter une escalade additionnelle qui nuirait encore davantage aux entreprises et aux travailleurs du Québec. Donc, on a une fenêtre de quelques semaines, en fait, pour justement tenir ces négociations-là, pour faire des gains. Et ça va être important de négocier avec sang-froid, négocier avec fermeté. Et je vous dirais que le Québec va être un partenaire dans cette démarche-là. C'est ce que j'ai souligné lors de la rencontre. On va se rendre disponible aussi souvent qu'il le faudra. J'ai demandé à ce qu'il y ait justement des rencontres très serrées, un canal de communication ouvert constamment au cours des prochaines semaines, de telle sorte qu'on puisse être mis au fait, informé de l'évolution des discussions. J'ai rappelé également que le Québec a des priorités qui doivent être considérées. Notamment la gestion de l'offre, qui est absolument pas négociable. J'ai réitéré la chose. Et j'ai rappelé également les nombreux secteurs qui sont d'importance stratégique pour le Québec et pour le Canada, notamment l'aluminium, le bois d'œuvre, les minéraux critiques et stratégiques, l'exception culturelle. Donc tout ça, ça fait partie des éléments qui doivent être protégés. Et pour moi, c'est important qu'on ait une entente, qu'on en vienne à une entente qui va protéger notre économie, les entreprises, les travailleurs et assurer la défense des intérêts du Québec. I may proceed with my English declaration. As we know, Donald Trump has chosen to impose new tariffs within the next 30 days, and I've appreciated the meeting with Prime Minister Carney in order to discuss the strategy that will be put forward. It was a necessary meeting. And we had frank and constructive discussions. We all share, in fact, the same objectives, intensify negotiations in order to avoid an escalation that would be very harmful, even greatly harmful to businesses and workers. We have a window of opportunity of a few weeks, and we need to make progress within these next few weeks in order to protect the strategic sectors of the economy in Quebec. Quebec has priorities that must be fully taken into account. Supply management is not negotiable. I've mentioned it, as well as our strategic sectors that must be protected, including aluminum, forestry, aerospace, critical minerals, and cultural exemption as well. Those must be protected. And we will maintain a close collaboration with the federal government. We will make ourselves available, and we will make sure that our voice is heard. And also we will want this agreement to be settled in order to protect Quebec workers, Quebec businesses, and defend Quebec's fundamental interests. Thank you.
Merci, Madame la Première ministre. Une question, une sous-question, s'il vous plaît.
Escalade additionnelle et votre collègue, M. Ford, lui, parle qu'il faut frapper encore plus fort. Pourquoi y a-t-il une différence entre les deux?
Ben, je pense que M. Ford a eu son approche à lui qui est distincte de la mienne, au sens où moi je veux qu'on s'assure de bien protéger les secteurs économiques québécois. et la gestion de l'offre également. Et à partir de là, on va avoir potentiellement des stratégies qui sont différentes entre l'Ontario et le Québec. Mais ce dont on a discuté aujourd'hui, c'est l'importance que le fédéral défende les intérêts du Québec. Okay. In fact, the meeting today permitted the federal government to be aware of the different sectors in Quebec that must be protected, as well as the supply management system. And at the end, maybe the Premier of Ontario will adopt a different approach than mine, but today it was in order to discuss the Canadian strategy.
Merci. Je vais vous inviter à vous présenter au micro pour poser vos questions, s'il vous plaît. Questions d'abord en français, puis ensuite en anglais. Merci beaucoup.
Donc, si je comprends bien, Mme Fréchette, Sébastien Desrosiers de Radio-Canada, pour vous, il n'est pas temps de considérer des contre-tarifs sur l'énergie, par exemple, comme le suggère Doug Ford. Qu'est-ce que vous pensez d'une surtaxe sur l'électricité québécoise exportée aux États-Unis?
Je ne considère pas cette option-là. Je n'en suis pas là. Je veux qu'on défende, en fait, dans le cadre de négociations avec les Américains, les intérêts du Québec. Ça va être la voie que moi, je promeux. Et de ce que j'ai compris, M. Carney était dans cette orientation-là également.
Sur Churchill Falls, vous avez rencontré votre homologue de Terre-Neuve et Labrador. M. Wakeham n'a pas l'air aussi pressé que vous d'en arriver à une entente. Je veux dire, de quoi a-t-il été question durant votre rencontre, et est-ce que vous pensez qu'il partage votre intérêt à régler les choses rapidement?
Oui, tout à fait. Donc, on a réitéré le fait que les équipes de négociation travaillaient à bon rythme, que les choses avancent, et voilà, qu'on cheminait vers une conclusion à plus ou moins brève échéance, mais j'ai senti une volonté de sa part de conclure cette entente-là.
Vous convenez qu'il est minuit moins une pour en arriver à une entente?
Ouais.
Merci. Prochaine question.
Quel est votre niveau de confiance qu'on puisse en arriver à un accord après cette rencontre-là, après avoir entendu M. Carney, à un accord dans les 29 prochains jours?
Mon niveau de confiance, écoutez, à partir du moment où les équipes conviennent de part et d'autre de négocier de manière plus intense, je pense que c'est un très bon signal. Je pense qu'il y a une volonté de part et d'autre d'en venir à un cadre qui soit plus stable. Donc, je suis confiante qu'avec...
S'il n'y a pas de représailles, si on n'utilise pas des leviers, quel rapport de force vous avez pour arriver à un accord dans ces prochaines semaines-là, tandis que M. Trump, lui, a déposé cette bombe-là sur la table alors que s'amorcent ces négociations dites plus intenses?
Bien, je ne suis pas certaine que d'avoir des représailles fortes à l'endroit des États-Unis, c'est la tactique qui nous permet d'avancer en termes de discussion puis de négociation avec les Américains. Ils ne sont pas les plus friands, bien sûr, de ce type de stratégie. Donc, voilà, je pense que c'est en négociant plutôt à la table que les choses vont avancer et qu'on va développer un cadre stable.
Merci. Prochaine question.
OK. How did I begin? J'ai dit que c'était pas... Ah oui, OK. From my point of view, it's not by using retaliatory measures. It's not by using retaliatory measures that we will get to a conclusion for the negotiations with the United States. I think that we need to have our teams, negotiating teams, sit at the same table and discuss and negotiate. And so I think this is the strategy that the federal government will adopt, and we will be fully collaborating to that.
But if you're not using retaliation to get their attention, you are the smaller partner, so how do you make them come to a deal then?
Well, from their point of view, we have already adopted some retaliatory measures, and they would like them to come to an end. For example, the American bottles of wine, they want them to be put back on the shelves, and we might do so only if we have a negotiation that is going forward and we have some wins.
Merci. Next question, please.
That was just
Just
my
a
follow.
question by journalist,
But I
please.
only ask one. I get a follow usually. Can I ask you about culture? Because this is on the list that USTR has identified some of the digital and media policies of the federal government, very important to Quebec. We haven't heard them take any action against Canada for that yet, but we know it's an irritant. So what is Quebec telling the federal government about what it needs to get out of this negotiation in terms of what America's gunning for now on the culture front?
Yeah, we are telling the federal government that the cultural exemption must be protected. It is important. It is part of our identity that is linked to that cultural exemption, so it is essential for us. And the federal government understands that. It is essential for us to keep that the way it is.
Next question, please.
There's disagreement among premiers on whether energy should be used as leverage. Should these 29 days pass and there's no deal with the U.S., would you be willing to cut off any hydroelectricity exports to the U.S. Or any other energy exports to the U.S.?
Personally, I'm not there. I want us to negotiate at the table, and we'll see in 30 days where we will end up. But I'm not considering nowadays using energy as a retaliatory measure.
Nowadays, though, so is that, it's an option on the table, it sounds like?
Not to date, no. It's not an option for me.
But it
Okay.
We'll see where we end up at the end of August.
Okay, next question, please.
We'll
Donc,
make
la
an
dernière
update.
en français de Monsieur Bergeron.
Bonjour, bonjour Madame Fréchette. Concernant la vente d'alcool américain à la SAQ, donc c'est totalement écarté pour vous actuellement le retour des produits alcoolisés américains
Ouais.
sur les tablettes de la SAQ.
Oui, j'exclus le retour des produits alcoolisés américains sur les tablettes de la SAQ. Ce sera quelque chose que je pourrais considérer lorsqu'il y aura eu des gains pour le Québec. Et on n'en est pas là.
Est-ce qu'il y aura d'autres rencontres avec M. Wakeham bientôt?
Bon, on va se reparler d'ici la fin de la semaine, c'est sûr. Donc, peut-être pas une rencontre officielle comme on en a eu une, mais on va discuter à nouveau, ça c'est sûr.
Merci beaucoup. C'est ce qui met fin à la mêlée de presse. Merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup.
Non, non. Moi, on s'est dit tout à l'heure qu'on était confiants de clore ça dans les prochaines semaines.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci.
C'est ce qui met fin à la mêlée de presse. Merci.
Isn't ready to sign the landmark agreement on DC.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Thank you so
The
much.
ceremony that was held. It's only because we need some legislative changes. And I wasn't able to sign that because these legislative changes have not been made yet, but we're considering making them in the fall.
Merci beaucoup. Merci.
Thank you.
Thank you. Merci.
Alors, voilà, on n'était pas signataire de l'entente cet après-midi parce qu'il nous faut quelques changements législatifs, malheureusement, qui n'ont pas pu être faits. Donc, on les fera. Ils seront faits, en fait, ultérieurement. Et notre intention, c'est de signer cette entente dès que possible.
Merci beaucoup.
Après les élections.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci.